there's like such pressure for guys and for girls to like just nail it, to get everything right, to bounce back to your pre-pregnancy weight. Man, girls love to brag about that. Oh yeah, I fit back in my pants 2 weeks after I had a baby.
The biggest thing for me is not trying to bounce back to a former version of myself, but understanding like, okay, in a new body, what does fitness look like now? Or what does nutrition look like now? And what is my body capable of now?
Man, social media got me before having a kid. I'm like, oh, these people can do it. All these influencers just bounce right back and brag about it. You know, all my plan was to have this baby naturally. Didn't go as planned. So then I ended up like in an emergency C-section.
Even so, the like mental taxation of like, you're supposed to be gaining weight. This is okay. Like, this is a good thing. You actually have to gain weight. And just like being okay with that and just seeing something new in the mirror that you're not used to.
Well, welcome to another recording at Behavior and Performance Research. Today is really special because one, we have two ladies that I think so very highly of, but further still, we're going to be talking about something that I'm not even sure why I'm here for, which is motherhood. I can't think of anything in all my years of health and fitness that has more opinions, more bias, more, dare I say, snake oil than these stages of motherhood from pregnancy to postpartum and beyond, and the expectations of being healthy and fit. So it's a very broad topic that we attempt to tackle today. But we have Brittany, who is how far along?
I'm 8 months, so I'm due in about a month.
8 months pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Linds, who is the mother of a wonderful daughter who is how old now?
She turned 2 in February.
2 in February, and I speak only as a representative of my wife. I don't want anyone to be
You've
triggered.
You've seen a lot of motherhood.
Yeah.
You're good.
To be triggered by me being here. I know precious nothing of being a mom, but I do love to observe, and so I have, if nothing else, some observations of what it would look like to support someone such as a mother. And so why don't we start with what you're experiencing, Brittany,
Yes.
from before
Lots of
being
stuff.
pregnant to what you're experiencing now, and just share some thoughts, things that you hope other mothers to be and those that maybe are pregnant right now would need to hear.
Totally. It's actually been really funny. The word I've used most often for my pregnancy has been underwhelming. And that's not to like shoot down people that have had like a really tough pregnancy or have been really sick. But it is something that I've done a lot of soul searching of like, okay, why haven't I been sick a lot, or why don't I feel as tired, or, you know, what is it that I maybe did or didn't do that helped contribute to the success? And I think a lot of it was I was set up for success before we even talked about getting pregnant. The things that we have gotten to teach at BPR and the things that I've gotten to test and try and talk about, I think really contributed a lot. So like, for example, as far as fitness goes, like I can't remember the last time I was on the ground, like grasping and like dying for air. Like I've really kept it around that kind of like longevity piece where I get to strength train, I get to chat in the middle of my sets. Like it's really not this high intensity every day. Nutrition has been pretty simplistic for the last couple of years, eating very similar foods, indulging when it feels appropriate. So there was just a lot of things that I think that workshopping how I approach it, workshopping how others approach it, that you can do it for a long period of time, set me up well as far as health goes going into pregnancy. And I'll say that within pregnancy, not much of it has changed. So that was something that was really helpful, was that there wasn't a lot to lifestyle and sleep and nutrition and fitness that had to be moved around. So I wasn't this like professional athlete working out for 5+ hours a day, and now I've had to move it back to 30. So I think that overall, the things that have made this successful and the things that have made this a really great experience overall. Have just been the consistency of what we've gotten to practice here, and then just being able to maintain it throughout the last 8 months.
That's really great. And one of the things I heard you say is having some type of sustainable program even before you get pregnant allows you to transition, because I'm sure you guys are the same, but we've worked with lots of females that are coming into a new routine and then they get pregnant, and it is actually too much of a stimulus for them to maintain. Like, they have to modify it. So one of the best things we can do even before I get pregnant, is to try to figure out, like, hey, what's a way that we could sustain this? Meaning, like, as soon as I get pregnant, there's some little modifications in RPE, or maybe the amount of food, or even the types of food that taste good, but not like a drastic overhaul.
Yeah. And I think I've read a lot about, whenever you first get pregnant, a lot of the like sicknesses or cravings is because of a hormone imbalance you were dealing with beforehand, and your body's trying to like right itself so it can then create a human. And so I think a lot of that has been negated because I've gotten to eat, relatively whole foods. We've talked about nutrition a ton. And so there wasn't just an all over the place of like, some days I eat McDonald's and some days I go to Whole Foods. Like, there was a lot of consistency there to where even in pregnancy, it hasn't been these crazy, like, well, now all I'm craving is Pizza Hut. What do I do with that? So I think it was interesting to hear, like, the more that you can take care of yourself early on, and the more that you can look at all of these different pieces as things that you would want to do through pregnancy and beyond pregnancy, have actually made it easier to stay consistent with, like, in this season.
Anything to add to that, Linds, just in your experience?
That was, totally same experience. I was blessed with a pretty easy pregnancy, but just having that, already being in the gym, already eating pretty healthy, it just helped me carry it through the end of my pregnancy and then into postpartum. So, definitely.
What about surprises? Like, things, just
Many.
hypothetically, like, as you think about it, and then as you experience it yourself, it's like, oh, well, that's different than I thought. Like, anything that, if you were watching this and you had yet to become pregnant, you would want a heads up about?
I think one of the bigger things for me is, especially being in the fitness industry or someone that's just been active for a long time, like, that your body's going to change, but how that affects you in a real way. I've, really enjoyed pregnancy, and it hasn't been something that's really hard, or I haven't had, to be on bed rest or anything like that. My body's responded well, but even so, the like mental taxation of like, you're supposed to be gaining weight. This is okay. Like, this is a good thing. You actually have to gain weight, and just like being okay with that, and just seeing something new in the mirror that you're not used to. I think that there could be more conversations around that, because it's all a good thing, but it doesn't make it easier in the moment to be like, this is so good and valuable, but like, it is something I've never seen in the mirror, and I'm having to adjust to it.
Man, it's really good. I think it's a really powerful thing to say out loud, and to just, instead of like trying to hang on to what you've had, to like embrace all the wonderful things that really is like a physical manifestation of what's yet to come. And to almost like reframe those things that can sometimes feel like, I'm whatever the typical phrase is, like, oh, I'm fat, or it's like, oh, I'm so tired. And be like, man, these are good things. Like, think about what this is representing of what's yet to come.
Well, it's also, I think, a good challenge. Like, there is a healthy way to gain weight. Like, it doesn't mean like, oh, you're supposed to gain X number of pounds in pregnancy, so now all of a sudden I'm going to go eat Chick-fil-A every day. Like, I think that there is a way to do it really well. And obviously you need excess calories. Your body is doing far more than it's ever done before. And so I think that there's sometimes a license that we can give ourselves of like, or even if you just frame it the wrong way, like, man, I'm supposed to be gaining weight. So how have I gained weight previously? It's been through all these unhealthy habits, and associating gaining weight with only unhealthy habits. And so I think that's something that's been a good shift. It's like, okay, how do I do this well, knowing that the outcome is something that I've tried to avoid previously?
Yeah. Super interesting. Anything to add there, Linds?
Yeah, I think with the just seeing your body different early on, when you just look really bloated and you're afraid to be like, oh man, these people are going to think I don't work out. I must tell them I'm pregnant, so they don't think that. But just seeing those changes in the mirror, your clothes start fitting tighter. It's mentally like a big shift. But knowing it's hard to like, okay, in 9 months, this is all going to make sense. But
Yeah.
it's a shift for sure, especially in the fitness industry.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, but it's like what so much of this is we're just saying it out loud is unavoidable.
yes.
You know, like your body has to do some of
Yeah.
these things. Like there's such good things.
It's a
that-
problem if it doesn't.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That we've previously, like you said, labeled as bad, when actually like everything here is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I became really fixated on like how much weight I was gaining and being like, okay, I can lose that much in this time. So that was kind of a mental shift too. It's like, no, don't worry about the weight. It's going to come off eventually. But like just seeing that number go up and up and up. Just
Yeah.
kind of being scared of it.
Well, that's a great segue. And this is funny, Britt, because this will at some point be a time capsule
That's right.
that you'll look back to.
Hi, daughter.
But let's talk about, man, a successful delivery, and there's so many different ways to go about that. But it's a healthy baby that you've had and a healthy baby to come. And just that anticipation, like you guys have both mentioned, like what it means to bounce back, which can have such a negative connotation of like, well, I need to get back to where I was before, when one layman's idiot dad husband observation, nothing's the same. Like my wife's a new version of who she was before she got pregnant in lots of different ways. So I'd love to hear postpartum, Britt, what you're anticipating. What are some of the things that you're telling yourself as we make that transition? Then Linds, what are some of the experiences that you had? Because I think it's pretty common that that's a really hard transition for a lot of females.
Yeah. I can kick it off. I think, the postpartum period, a lot of people talk about, but it's really hard there's nothing else like it where you can be like, oh, well, I've gone through this, so this will be similar. But like you said, I think the biggest thing for me is not trying to bounce back to a former version of myself, but understanding like, okay, in a new body, what does fitness look like now? Or what does nutrition look like now? And what is my body capable of now that it wasn't before? Or maybe what's something that I can't do now that I could have done then? And there have been small seasons of that. If you played sports your whole life, the day that you stop playing sports, you have to like understand a new version of yourself. Back in, competitive CrossFit, there was a day in which I no longer competed anymore. So then you learn a new version of yourself and what fitness looks like for you and what it means for you. And so I think that in postpartum, less about an aesthetic, it has to look like I did previously. But if I'm going to be the new example of fitness, nutrition, health in general for my family, for my future daughter, like how would I even want her to understand how she sees herself? Like seeing it through a new lens, essentially. So that's how I'm hopefully going to approach it. Who knows? I could go totally off the rails, and Lindsay will keep me accountable. But I think that's the biggest thing I'm trying to shift is the mindset around it's not going back to who you were, but it is learning a new version of yourself.
For
That's
sure.
so good. Yeah. What do you got, Linds?
Well, I had in my mind, I thought it'd be a lot different. I thought I'd just be able to, I worked out, I did everything pretty much until, the last days. So I thought, that magical 6-week appointment when I was
Take a good 48 hours
yeah,
off,
I was like,
hydrate,
I'm right back
get
in
back
the
to
gym.
it.
Everything I don't coach, but
I'll be the exception to the rule.
yeah,
There it is.
I'm like
Rules don't apply to her.
easy, fine, whatever. Took it slow for a few days, but really all my plan was to have this baby naturally. Didn't go as planned, so then I ended up like in an emergency C-section. Didn't put that in the cards. So my comeback,
That was not on the vision board.
wasn't on the vision board. So it completely in that moment, I had to change everything that I had envisioned this would look like. Everything, like it just was a longer recovery. I wasn't going to be able to just do things like I used to be able to do, even without, postpartum, but having that shift, I had to really like change some goals. You know, it was more of focused recovery, core, pelvic floor, and go that route instead of, I'll be fine. In 6 weeks, I'll be back to doing things. And I thought it would feel like it used to. And it's completely different. Even being pregnant, you're like, this feels different. And that just kind of keeps going. I think in my mind, I thought I would be able to do things like pull-ups quicker or even squat quicker and things like that. So taking the time to let your body recover is like a huge priority, and don't take it for granted. You're going to be sleep deprived. Your hormones are crazy. So I think that was just an approach just that I planned kind of can change. So don't be fixated on one thing.
I think that's such a great heuristic for parenthood in general. It's like, have a plan, be ready for that to need 17 different audibles. Keep the GPS coordinates, but you're going to take all of these different reroutes on your way to it, because there's just so many things that, one, you can't anticipate, two, you can't control. And that, I think, this is what I'm curious to ask you guys. There's like such pressure for guys and for girls to like just nail it, to get everything right, to bounce back to your pre-pregnancy weight. Man, girls love to brag about that. I fit back in my pants 2 weeks after I had a baby. And then just to kind of almost present yourself to the world like, man, look at how well we're doing. But I can remember late nights where Kelly and I looked at each other and we were like, we can't be the dumbest people that have ever raised a baby that in the history of mankind, you know, but that's how we feel right now with all the great plans like thrown out. Why do you think there's such pressure there? Like, especially for moms, forget dads, but for moms to present themselves as like at this perfect size, perfect appearance, perfect mother, all of these things that I think can put a lot of pressure on the female.
Man, social media got me before having a kid. I'm like, oh, these people can do it. All these influencers just bounce right back and brag about it. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I got this. I'm in fitness. I've been doing this for a long time. So just that's not real. Every pregnancy is different. Every comeback or recovery from pregnancy is different. So, I mean, some people gain more weight than others. It just happens. So do not think don't have a timeline on it. Definitely set some smaller goals to get, where you want to be and feel comfortable in your body. But don't think like in 2 weeks you're going to be just like that.
And I even say with multiple kids too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
With Kelly, very easy first pregnancy, quote unquote, bounce back relatively quick compared to Sally, which was a lot harder delivery. And she would say if she was sitting here, it took 4 times as long, which I don't think we could even anticipate. So yeah, even like not even comparing yourself to other people, but comparing yourself to yourself if you have more than one kid.
Every pregnancy could be different. I've heard that a lot from people. So yeah, some are harder than others. I don't know that, but I can see it in friends and family, and it is kind of interesting to see that.
Britt, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, the comparison game, you want to feel good about yourself. You want to feel elite. You want to feel better than whoever it is you're comparing yourself to. So there's the temptation to make it seem like you're doing better than you are. I think what I tell myself is anyone can look amazing for a 15-second reel. So, I mean, the amount of times that I've gotten to see, people that are in fitness that I know well, that I know the story that's happening behind the scenes, and then what they put online is different. And so I've really tried to cultivate, like even on Instagram, like what I'm seeing and what I'm not seeing, and have it be something that is an encouraging space versus, as soon as the algorithm figures out you're pregnant, it's like, here's all these people that are doing all these awesome things after their first kid. And you're like, okay, that's a lot to deal with. But I think, I'm like, that's too much. Thank you so much. But yeah, I think overall there's a natural inkling and there's a natural want to feel like you've got it figured out or got it accomplished. And so I can't fault people for that. But even just of those that I have gotten to chat with and those that I know in person, like just like Lynn said, like everyone's is different. You can't expect what's going to happen. Even like in birth could go totally different than what you planned, right?
No.
And so postpartum, same thing. Like you might think your body might react one way and it reacts totally different. And so I think I am just going into it with a ton of grace for myself and probably as little expectations as I can. Like you even said, like have the GPS coordinates. I'm like, I have a general area
Yeah.
I'm trying to head, but I don't know that I have coordinates
Yeah,
yet.
I know where we're going. I'm not real sure how we're going to get
It's
there.
more of like we're headed
It
to a
changes
state versus like a city or a hotel. Like we're headed in the general direction of Arizona. Don't ask me where I'm staying.
Yeah. And you guys bring up a great point, especially for those that have a really strong base of fitness that get pregnant. I think it's very common, and I've seen this in my own life and then in lots of people that I'm close to, where the doctor's like, hey, it'll be 6 weeks before you can do anything. And the mom's like, yeah, you got it.
Bet.
Totally.
Sure.
Challenge
Yeah.
accepted.
Sure.
That was me.
And this is tricky because there are
Present.
things that I think physicians and nurses say that really is on the conservative side as a way to just make sure we're being very safe. That doesn't seem to be one of those things.
Yep.
So it's just it's filtering information and thinking like, man, like you said, I really don't know until I get there, and whatever happens, hey, we'll deal with. We're gonna lose the weight. We're gonna find a good cruising altitude in this new life stage. How long, where this is gonna take us, hey, we're not quite sure.
Yep. I think that's also something that, you know, if you were to take this in the context of any other like traumatic event for your body, if you like broke your leg and was like, no, I'm just gonna like be better than it having to heal, like you would like scoff at those people, right? And so,
so
I
good.
feel like it's one of those things where like like, hey, your body is going to go through a trauma. Like there is a real thing that your body is having to go through. And so to say, oh, I'm just going to be able to recover faster is not true. And so I think if you put it in any other context of a trauma your body could go through and your body or your doctor was like, hey, you're physically not going to be able to walk for 6 weeks, to be like, yes, I will. Sounds silly. But yeah, I think overall it can feel like, especially I think in fitness, like 6 weeks is longer than I've ever taken off of any sort of movement. And so I think even that number, and Linds, you can correct me if I'm wrong, where you like hear that and you're like, I've never taken off that time in my life. Like,
Terrifying.
surely I'll be fine before then. And so that does feel scary to be like, oh, I'm going to not do anything for 6 weeks. And I think there's a lot of like, hey, that doesn't mean that you're in bed, can't move, like don't move a muscle. But there is a very specific, like, no, you could do more harm than good if you try to go back too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. You know, maybe one of the last things we could talk about is time management. Now, I know this is just a hypothetical, but Britt, you've coached enough people through this that I know you have great perspective and probably anticipation of what's to come. It's very common for this new wonderful bundle that's so helpless and needs so much, and it gives your life such meaning and such purpose that for the first time you say, my priorities are not important. Keeping this kid alive is what my life is about. And there's something really beautiful and there's something really monumental about that. But so often we can see mothers say, well, it's been 6 weeks and actually it's 6 months, but I don't have time to exercise. Or, you know, oh, it's really impossible for me to eat right. Or one of these things, which I really think comes from this really valiant and noble and courageous place, but the way that it plays out is actually not super healthy. I think there's a time management component in there, but I also think there's a mindset shift. Anything that you guys could speak truth to there?
I think as far as the time management goes, like obviously do not have a kid, so I've not had to experience it firsthand yet, but getting to coach a lot of gals through it, you're right. Like, it is coming from this selfless place of, I want to be and do everything for this kid or for my family or whatever it is. But I think there is a lot of benefit in your kids seeing you put, one, yourself as a priority, and two, like, taking care of yourself as a priority. So I will say, like, in my own life, my mom did not do that. Like, everything revolved around us. And so I never saw a positive body image in my role model because she didn't take care of herself. And so there was a lot of ways that she talked about herself and she talked about her body that were negative that I then had to figure out and overcome and do something different with.
Yeah, should I feel this way
Yeah,
too?
exactly. Or is this what you're supposed to do? Like, is this how parenthood goes? Like, is this how a good mother acts? And so I think that there's some of that. It's like, hey, take a step back. What is the message you're sending to your kid? And I think that actually I've seen you guys do a really good job of like, whenever the Nixes work out, a lot of times your daughters are with you. And so it's really cool to see that they're like, oh, it's just an expectation that we move our bodies. Like, it's just, that's what we do because mom and dad do it, we do it as a family. And so there are ways that I think, especially as they get older, like maybe, you know, in the baby stage, Linds could speak more to it, but there are ways to incorporate your kids in that to where it doesn't have to be this. And I think it will not look how it did before kids. So like right now, I could take off, go to the gym for an hour, hour and a half, probably even 2 hours, and be totally fine. No one's asking where I am. That will likely not be the case for me, right? And so it doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No pun intended. That's
Okay.
just a pun. That's just a
Pun
pun.
intended, for sure. But like, what are ways that, one, you could include your family, and then two, what are the ways in which you could still fit something in? It just might not be what it was previously.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I think for me, the time management piece was crazy, you know, coming from doing whatever you want to you can't do whatever you want. I think you made a post, you're like, not as important as a person as, you know, you're not the most important person in the world anymore. Mm-hmm. So I had the same experience in my mom and family, so I didn't want that for Zaya, my daughter. So even starting off, walks in the stroller, they won't remember when they're babies, but that just gets you out of the house. It gets you into a routine and just starts off your recovery journey. Depending on how you're blessed with an infant that sleeps or not, that dictates a lot. And I used to kind of, if people said they didn't have time to work out with kids and stuff, I'd kind of roll my eyes a little bit. And then I had a kid, and I understand. You just have to fit it in where you can get it. You know, whether that's 15 minutes because they won't nap, or, you know, having your partner watch the kid, or, you know, it's my time to go to the gym. So manage your time that way. But also, as I've grown, I would have her in my carrier and I'd be on a treadmill. Now I'm on my treadmill and she's sitting on the bed watching me. And then if I'm doing push-ups, she's doing push-ups with me and air squats. And I know, like, I can just see your smile. Like, you see that transition from, like, here's what I love to do, and I get to show my kid, and they're just, like, loving it, too. It's like, oh.
Yeah, you do. What both of you guys are saying is you have to be really creative.
Yeah.
And if you're rigidity has no place in this dojo.
Yeah.
So you have to, man, wake up every day and be like, man, I don't know how they're going to sleep. I don't know how they're going to nap. I don't know how they're going to feed. So I got plan A, I got plan B, I got plan C. I may even have plan D.
Yeah.
And plan D may be, I'm doing 10 push-ups, you know, here and there.
You're doing
maybe
air
a little
squats
walk.
with her in a carrier.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
What
You're
did that
doing
look
lunges.
like, Spence, for you, since you have a little bit older kids? Like, when they were toddlers, maybe couldn't participate with you, now up to, I think, Stella's, 11?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, can actually do a lot of the things you're doing. What did that look like as far as, like, this was plan A while they were young and they could maybe sit in a carrier while we're doing this, versus now it's, like, more of a family endeavor?
Well, I thank you for asking. I have some really interesting observations. Kelly very rarely walked before we had kids. And once we had kids, that became something that was like a saving grace. And that became something that I think before we never really put in the category of exercise, but it became something that really broadened the horizon. It was like, hey, this is great blood flow. This is doing all the things. And it's very possible to do even with the smallest of children. And so I think that was step one, is just like we were saying before, getting really creative with what does it even mean to exercise. Once we're through that really newborn baby stage, it became all about intervals. And to start, they're really, really short intervals. One of the biggest surprises is that I own a gym, and I really thought, oh, well, Kelly will come up and she'll work out. And kids showed us, hey, we need to have other options besides the transition to get to the gym, the whole hour to do the thing that we think we're going to do, and then the transition home. And so initially it was just as we were talking about, okay, I got the kids down. I got the baby monitor. I'm going to go downstairs. It's 10 minutes. I got a pair of dumbbells. Check. As they got a little bit older and more ambulatory, and parents, don't forget that when your kids can't move, you can do a lot more. I think when we have a brand new baby, you just kind of stare at it and you realize, like, oh my gosh, this is the time I can actually do
I
stuff.
can do so much right now.
Once they start walking, done.
Yeah. Once they start walking, it became a tag team. And we got super creative with a lot of different formats of a you go, I go. So there can always be man-on-man defense. Now, what's beautiful is that as the kids get older, they can handle a few minutes more by themselves. And so that could be, Kelly used to always work out during nap time, but when the kids were awake and they're running around, they could handle like a slightly longer interval. Or we would get creative and we would, as soon as they could walk, we'd put the weight vests on. Or as soon as they could ride bikes, we're all going on a bike ride. And again, we're just trying to figure out ways that we can incorporate them. And now that they're a lot older, last thing I'll say, Stella has 11 years. This is the most normal thing to her to see her parents go in the backyard and exercise. And so we can basically do whatever we want at this point. But trying to just get them involved and to let them be a part of that story. Some of our best experiences as families is doing something not like, hey, I've got to check the box and I've got to do these things, but it's like, hey, we're just all going to like get sweaty together.
Yeah.
And it's turned into what both of you guys have said, the manifestation of what we hope our kids learn from us about what exercise is. Not a chore or something where it's like, I hate myself and so I got to do this. But it's like, hey, mom and dad like this. This is fun for them. So maybe this could be fun for me. I hope that's the story that they learn.
What do you think? So with fitness, you've had more longevity being able to kind of rewrite what it means to you, and even you being an example for your kids of what fitness is in general. So I'd love to hear from you, like, hey, what does fitness mean to you now, being an example to 3 young girls? But also, I think you do a really good job of, yes, I want this to be something that y'all are included in, but you do a really good job of pursuing goals outside of it as well. And it doesn't feel like you lost your own priorities within the fitness realm as well. Like, you've gotten to do a lot of fun races, like you're going climbing soon. Like, there's a lot of different things that I think it's easy for parents to be like, oh, if it doesn't involve the kids, then I don't do it at all, and become very kid-centric. But it feels like you and Kel have still maintained your identity and still been able to pursue things that really excite you outside of being a father. So how would you say that that has gone well for you? Because I think, like, for me right now, fitness is like, it's my own personal thing. It's whatever goals I want it to be. And I would hope that I would, want to include my daughter and want her to see me address it really well, but also being able to prioritize things that could be important to me outside of her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's really kind for you to say that, because I don't always feel that way. And specifically, I think they're, just like we were talking about, the father feels that too. It's like, man, these kids are so helpless. Like, this has now brought my life meaning, and this is what I'm all about. But after a certain point, you have to think, but what do you want them to learn? And everybody's got a different answer. So this is very individual for me, and so I don't want anybody to watch this and be like, well, this is for everybody. But I realized that I wanted my kids to see me doing things that were adventurous. And I thought for a long time to be a good father meant that you had to deny yourself those things. because some of the models that I saw growing up, and not necessarily my own parents, but my friends' parents, they would play golf every Saturday morning. And so they were absent. I want my kids to see all that stuff. I want them to be like front and center for that. Not so they can say like, man, dad was a trip junkie, or, you know, he just wasn't happy unless he was doing these things. But as our kids got older, Kelly and I just talked about like, man, what do we want our family to be about? And adventure just happened to be one of those things that we both really liked. And so that feels like it fits with the story that we want to tell as a family. And so for Kelly to want to do a trail marathon, or for me to go backcountry skiing, a lot of these things we can take the kids with. And so it feels like it's a shared experience. That's cool. So I very strategically picked things that don't require me to be invisible to my kids or absent, but they can see it.
That's a good distinction.
And so I don't feel guilty doing it. And if I don't feel guilty and there's no shame in that, then this is just like something cool that we do together. And man, miracle of all miracles, they somehow grow up to want to do some of that stuff too. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for asking.
I'm excited for the older years to be able to do that. I think it is easy in the first year or two, because they are so like they need a lot of attention to kind of maybe not put your goals in the forefront. But now as they get older, I think it's very important to, exactly like you said, show them like who you are.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. Every stage is like, well, this is it. This is life forever.
Yeah.
This is
And then it
all I
changes.
do now.
Yeah, it changes. And so there's a point where it's like, well, this is just, you know, this is what I'll just do from now until the end of time. And then they get older, and then they ask questions, and then they give you almost the invitation to also evolve who you are. And that's a really beautiful thing, that you guys are transforming and you're growing together. A lot of the stuff that you mentioned, I wasn't doing before I had kids. But I realized that there's nothing that's more a motivation to me than to set a good example for those little girls.
Yeah.
There's nothing I've ever cared about more. And so you just think, well, what does that mean? And for us, that just is what the answer has partly become.
I think that's such a, you know, as you're parenting these kids, you're getting to know them and their little nuances, but they're also getting to know you. And I realized that was something I missed out on with my parents, because my mom's entire life was about whatever we wanted to do. So like, I couldn't have told you her favorite movie. I couldn't have told you like what her hobbies were before us. And then my dad was the opposite, where he was kind of the absent. He's like, oh, I'm going to go fishing every Saturday, so you'll never see me do this. But like, I'm still getting to pursue who I am and what I want. And so I think granting your kids the opportunity to get to know you and what lights you up and what, you know, fires you up probably is a lot of the reason why they're excited to do it with you. But something that Baker and I, my husband, have been really talking through a lot of like, hey, how do you not lose yourself in the identity of parenthood, but also like, as you're getting to know this kid, like, how are you sharing who you are as well?
Yeah, so good. I mean, kids are so great in that aspect, because there's just these little sponges. You know, think about how they accumulate the ability to communicate with very little like formal instruction from us. And then think about all of the nuances and emotions that they have to pick up just to survive. And a big part of that is them asking questions like, well, why do you think that? Hey, are you sad? Hey, why are you doing that? And you got to have an answer for those, right?
Turns out you're the authority.
I had no answers for any of that stuff. So it's like, well, I can either say because I said so, or I can really try to figure out like, man, why do I feel that way? Why am I doing this? And it's been the hardest and the absolute best thing that's ever happened. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this up? Anything you want to say to a future mother?
Gosh, it's a big ask. I think the biggest thing would be, like, let the plan change. Like, it might not look how you thought it would. Even in pregnancy, if you have a hard pregnancy and you thought you were going to work out the whole time, but now you're on bed rest for 5 months, just like, hey, what does it look like right now to do a good job of stewarding our body and trying to maintain health? And, you know, in each season, let that be something that is malleable and can shift with you. I think is probably my biggest learning so far as a very, very noob stepping into parenthood in a couple of weeks. Yeah. But I think the more that I can not have my heart set on it has to be one thing, it seems like the better setup for success I'll be.
Yeah, we'll see.
Totally agree. Be
You're
okay
here.
with just everything changing. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Every morning's different.
Every morning. Every day. Every day you potentially wake up
Don't
with
be
a
scared.
different with a different kid.
Show no fear in your eyes.
and as a different person
Yes.
yourself. You're like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to get today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that you're not the dumbest or the worst parent that's ever lived.
That's
Just
right.
remember that. Those people exist, but it's not you.
I was about to say someone has to be the dumbest, so they could be.
Someone.
But you know what?
It's not you.
They're so dumb they don't even know it.
They're not listening to a podcast on parenthood. Let's be real.
They're not our viewer. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
I
you.
love you. I'm so proud of you. And thank you guys for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Subscribe!